All right, I think we are live.
Yeah, looks like it.
We checking the stream.
Yep, checking on YouTube. It is going. I'm presuming everything else is fine.
Yep, probably is. Cool. So how's it going, William? Doing good?
Yeah, doing all right. Can't complain.
It's been a little bit. We
It has.
we missed the last one, the one that we normally have at the beginning of the month, but that's for good reason, right?
Yeah, it's because we didn't do any work that month.
That's right. No work at all.
Yep.
Just just a bunch of slackers not coding. No.
S- Signed in,
Signed
chatted a
it.
bit,
That's right.
left.
No, we're being facetious. We've actually been working very hard on some new stuff and some stuff that just needed that extra couple weeks of work. So we're giving it a little bit of time, see if anybody joins us. If not, we're just push forward and talk about new stuff. So this is the Accessibility Checker changelog live stream, where we talk about the WordPress plugin, the Accessibility Checker, which is an automated accessibility scanning plugin to help your WordPress website become and stay accessible. We have a free, full-featured plugin called Accessibility Checker. We have a pro version that you can get to that extends upon that and adds lots of pro level premium features, and we also have 3 add-ons to our pro plugin that you can get at different subscription levels. We have an audit history plugin to track your accessibility compliance over time. We have a multi-site add-on that allows you to manage your license and stats and activations across a multi-site network. And we have an export add-on that allows you to export your accessibility scan data to a CSV file so you could import that into your system of choice. So today's theme, William, is reimagining accessibility checker in the block editor sidebar.
Yeah, so we did not have any sidebar integration. We effectively didn't really have any block editor integration, any deep integration for a long time. So now that changes, and we went all in.
Yep, we went all in. So for those that don't know, accessibility checker is is quite old, or as my teenage children would say, unk. And yeah, William shaking his head at me. Can't believe I
I
said
know what
that.
that means.
It just means old.
Yep.
So accessibility checker has just had its 5th birthday. It's 5 years old, and 5 years ago the block editor was not quite where it is today, and we used a classic meta box. If you're a current user of the plugin, you are very familiar with our meta box that you use to check your status and see how many issues you have and to manage your readability. So what our goal here for the new year is to go through the plugin and kind of do some UI and UX overhaul. Since it's been 5 years, it's time to give the plugin a little bit of a refresh, a little bit more of a visual, um, modern visual look, and to help integrate it more deeply into the WordPress admin to make it feel like it works more seamlessly with the block editor, and at the same time maintaining backward support for post types or websites that don't support the block editor. So what we've done is we took the current classic meta box and just rethought it. How if we're rebuilding this in the sidebar of the block editor, how can we rethink this? And if you've used the block editor and you know the sidebar is it's a not a very wide space. So we're going from having a very wide space for the meta box to having a very narrow space for the sidebar. And when that happens, you have to make a lot of UI and UX considerations, and you have to really think deeply about the information you're trying to surface and very deeply about what all you put in there, because like it can, you can't put big blocks of text because they wrap and it looks bad.
Effectively, you have 265 pixels, which doesn't account for padding. So you
Yeah.
got to pad that out a little bit as well. You might get to 40 pixels worth of usable space. It's nothing.
Yeah.
You can fit a button side by side, and that's about it.
That's right. Even your text labels have to have some consideration, right?
Yep.
So, but the big benefit of the Block Editor sidebar is it surfaces the accessibility checker, one at the top of the page, inside of the toolbar, alongside the other sidebars that other plugins may add, or the default sidebars that are there. And it services it beside your content. So no longer are you looking at your content, scrolling down to the meta box. Okay, what is this? Trying to find that issue in your editor, and this just back and forth. When it puts it to the side, your content's on the left, your sidebars on the right. I think you can move these sidebars, can't you? To the right and left?
I think you can swap them to the other side. I have never had any reason to move it to the other side.
Right.
Well, I believe you can.
But it puts it in one pane in two columns. You now have a visual of your content and the accessibility checker at the same time. So there's a lot to talk about in regards to what we did, but I think we should pull it up and we should start going through it and just kind of start talking about some of the changes that we made, because there are a lot of terminology changes. We had a lot of internal discussion if we should build a glossary, since terminology is being reconsidered so much, and trying to unify terminology throughout all of our products. But let me pull it up and we'll just walk through it piece by piece. Cool. So this is just a normal post in the WordPress admin, and you can now see that we have a little icon up here in the top toolbar in the right. And if you use like the Yoast plugin, Yoast has their sidebar here. So now we have ours. But we wanted to make sure that, since we're moving this and creating new functionality, that you didn't overlook it. So we've added a meta box down below in the post sidebar for accessibility checker. Says you have 12 problems to address and 16 issues that need to be reviewed, with a button that will initiate that sidebar. So that's just us kind of helping you if you're in this default view that, hey, accessibility checker is running it. There are issues. And this kind of just helps bridge the gap between the old meta box and the new sidebar. So I'll go ahead and click on the sidebar icon to pull it up. So we are presented with the default view here. Is this large enough, William? Should I try to?
If you could zoom in, I think that might be quite good. Yeah, that looks better. It is. You don't realize how small it is until you have to start sharing.
Yeah. So since the sidebar is quite small, I will show it at a zoomed in view here, so we can look at it in the screen share together easily. So William, before I talk through some of this stuff, were there huge technical challenges in getting here?
So surprisingly, the components that already exist that are used to build Gutenberg itself, or the block editor, are all available to reuse, and they are quite reusable. A lot of this is core UI components.
Mm-hmm.
It will look very familiar to people. You will recognize the panels. These are the same panels that exist in style edits, for example. If you have a block open to edit, these are the same panels. So as far as technical hurdles go, easier than expected. Not simple, but not complicated either.
Yeah, so we're able to take accessibility checker data and kind of take WordPress core block editor components and kind of utilize those and build out this sidebar. Though sure, there's a few custom components that we've added here, but it's just a much more mature application way of building it. And we were pleased to find that in using those components that we did have what are called props inside these components that actually do allow us to achieve the level of accessibility that we're trying to achieve here. It can be discussed a little bit in the Gutenberg block editor, that it's completely inaccessible or it's not usable, but we've seen a lot of maturity in regards to accessibility inside the block editor. And we were actually kind of pleased to find ourselves that these components, maybe not out of the box, were set exactly the way we wanted them set for accessibility, but the props were there for us to achieve the level of accessibility with our own plugin that we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I actually think I've changed my generalized opinion on whether the block editor is accessible or not. I think they've made an awful lot of progress since the last time I had evaluated this. Like a huge amount of progress.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that may be a little bit of our delay to move Accessibility Checker into the block editor for those reasons, and maybe some of our own misconceptions as well, why we delayed on that. Because what we try to do with Accessibility Checker is it's a plugin that is used to scan your website for accessibility problems. But we also try to practice what we preach, and we try to make our plugin accessible itself, because we want, if regardless of somebody's ability, if they want to make their website accessible, we want our tool to be accessible to check the accessibility of their website. So we were pleased to find that we were able to achieve a good level of accessibility while moving into the block editor.
Yeah, labels were readily available to you to add. Keyboard navigation was surprisingly high level on the majority of the components we needed them to be on. Tabs, for example, which we will see shortly, I was incredibly surprised had full keyboard support. Full and implemented properly.
Yeah, with arrow keys. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. So let's take a look. We have I'm going to close this one. We have 4 panels in the sidebar, and these correlate to our old meta box. But you'll notice that the terminology's changed a little bit. So we used to have the summary tab in the meta box, which is now the accessibility status accordion here. And we used to have the details panel, which is now the accessibility analysis panel. And we use in the meta box, and we're going to talk about the meta box here in a little bit too, because it has been brought up to date, and we're trying to keep things in parity with the sidebar as much as we can. We actually, in the previous details panel, what we used to call ignored items were they're filtered in with the other issues. So what we've done is we've actually separated them out now in the sidebar. So we now have a panel called dismissed issues, and the reasoning for moving those out and surfacing them into their own panel is we're trying to create separation between what needs to be actioned on and what are artifacts of remediation. So before we were kind of collating those things, and now we want to separate those out to create greater separation on what you've done and what you need to do. And then finally, we have a 4th panel called the readability analysis, which was called readability before.
It was just called readability, correct?
Yes. So let's dive into each panel individually. So William, you want to talk about the accessibility status panel?
Sure. So the accessibility status panel is very much the same as what you would see in the existing or the previous mailbox. It has all the surface level information that you might need to make a decision about what you're going to focus on while editing this page. So in this example here, we have 12 problems and 16 items that needs review. You know immediately, arguably problems are bad, but things that you need to review might actually be worse because we don't know if they're problems. But one major difference here is we no longer break out contrast errors. Previously, we would break contrast errors out and have errors as two separate groups. Contrast errors are errors, and all errors are problems. And contrast errors now are included in the problems count. They are the same. They need to be dealt with. So
Hmm.
they're a single group. The other big change here is that the number past checks used to be named past tests, and it used to be the largest object on in the meta box. After some consideration, we decided maybe it isn't the most important aspect of the data here, and as such, it has a similar weight as all of the other items.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, to tag on that a little bit, the ordering has been moved around too. So William said that like we had problems and then we had contrast issues, and I think our original thought around separating those out as two individual issues is because color contrast can be a lot of times with themes and WordPress themes one of the biggest things to focus on. But as far as like giving weight to things, they really have the same weight. So we've just decided to collect those into one data point, and so those are now called problems. So we're no longer calling them errors because what we've introduced is we'll talk about here in a little bit is severity. So if we're calling things errors and warnings, and then we have a severity, like if a warning has a critical severity and an error has a low severity, like which one takes priority? So what we've done is we've removed that terminology of errors and warnings, and we've replaced it with problems and needs review, because that really is the distinction. Previously, an error before was something that we could programmatically, with very good accuracy, tell that this is an issue, and needs review is something that programmatically we couldn't with 100% or 99.9% accuracy um, tell you that this is an issue. It actually required a little bit of human review, and alt text is a perfect example of something that gets flagged as needs review, because there could be a very valid case for not adding alt text to a decorative image. So we have a question here. Let me pull this up. From Daniel, is there any chance for this to eventually roll out to other editors, i.e., Bricks Builder? So what like I stated earlier, we're looking down the road to major UI and UX overhaul of the accessibility checker this year. This is the first step. Um, there is a step coming up. I don't know if it's next or if it's the one after the next one, to make new considerations for how accessibility checker is shown on the front. We currently have our front end highlighter that was made several years ago, and we are looking at a future new tool to expose and manage accessibility issues on the front end in a much better way. I have not used Bricks Builder, but I would imagine that is it a I'm not sure if it's a back end or a front end builder.
So Bricks is a front end ish type of builder, so we will not be able to deploy this exact permutation of this sidebar on Bricks. If you want to use this sidebar, you will need to use the classic editor or the block editor. However, as Steve was saying, we have future plans to bring all of these new features, which we maybe haven't yet spoke about, but we will be bringing all those features to a new front end highlighter, moderator, scanner system. It's a bit
Yeah.
of a hybrid.
So do you know, William, if the front end highlighter works with bricks?
So when I looked at this with Daniel previously, so hi Daniel, it works okay for highlighting issues, but the rescan doesn't work so well with bricks because of its overlay-esque
No. Okay.
system. Yeah. So it would be able to detect issues, but it also detects bricks overlay as well. So it doesn't work as well as it does on just a markup based page.
Right. Yeah, totally. There are challenges with page builders, and we know that like our front end highlighter works quite well with Elementor. Doesn't seem to conflict with Elementor's panels a whole bunch. And we're working with Kevin over at Etch to make sure that our front end highlighter is working with Etch, and we've got some updates coming in regards to that. So we're looking at what this future thing that we haven't really scoped out a whole bunch, and we haven't really talked about a lot publicly. We are looking for a solution that solves the front end exposure of issues for anything, regardless of what page builder or what platform it's running, and maybe even if it's not running WordPress. So thanks for your question, Daniel. Daniel's got a follow-up. Yeah. This is a great point. I'm gonna pull this up. So Daniel said, I asked about bricks not only because I use it, because its user base tends to care about accessibility more than the users of some other builders. That's a great point, Daniel, and we should definitely pull up bricks. William, we should put that on our list to do some testing on, to make sure that our front end highlighter is compatible and that we can help that community and support that community in making their websites accessible.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, as I said, I have spoken with Daniel before, and maybe we could actually sync up again and find out more from an actual user what the needs are. So I might email you back on that thread, Daniel, and we can connect and figure out the best way to make sure bricks is supported fully.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. Sounds great. Cool. So back to the status here. So I was kind of explaining like the difference between errors and warnings. They're now problems and needs review, and we're going to talk a little bit more about severity and a little bit. If you use our Pro plugin, you kind of know about our severity flags that we added a few versions back, but we'll talk about that here in a minute. And then so reading level. Not much has changed in regards to reading level here, the way we display it. I'm going to talk about the icons here in a minute, William, because that's really important.
Yep.
And then, like William said, past checks has been kind of brought down in priority. It doesn't have a big circle. Now, we have maintained this in the meta box, and we'll talk about that when we get to the meta box, and I'll tell you why we're maintaining the previous kind of layout for that. But past checks has been brought down in priority, and we had a lot of internal discussion about this because past checks just runs a calculation on how many of our rules is this post passing, and then it gives you a percentage of passed. And previously it used color to indicate good, when there could be a whole lot of reasons not to necessarily convey good. Because there's issues when you're scanning a page to where if a rule doesn't apply to that page, you're still getting credit for that rule passing.
Yeah, I don't want to call that out actually specifically. So we did change this. It used to be called past tests, and we have changed it to past checks. But we had a lot of back and forth about even the term on this, because this is 81% are not applicable. to this content. It doesn't mean they're passed, really. It means that they have not failed. And there is a big difference there. I think arguably a more important metric is 19% of the checks did not pass here.
Right.
And, maybe in the future we'll offer a toggle to flip this number around for
Right.
personal, whichever one someone might want. I actually would prefer this to be inverted.
Yeah, totally. I do too. And what that does is it kind of obscures away whether or not the rule passed because an issue existed on the page and it was accessible, it was done right, or it didn't exist on the page and the rule didn't apply. Um, so if you inverse it and you focus on only what failed, you're only looking at where you need to improve. And yeah, we really went back and forth about this. Like I was calling it coverage in an early iteration of this, and I will tag on here. We did kind of go through a full design phase on this, which we don't do a lot, and we haven't done a lot in a while. But and a lot of people may not know this. I'm not just the CTO of Equalize Digital. I'm not just a developer, but I actually went to college to be a designer. So I have all these weird skill sets that kind of work together. And really, I don't really flex the design stuff much anymore. But as of building this, I did, and really brought in that convergence between the design and the development into how we can present a much better visual UI and a much better user experience. Because what we're trying to do in Accessibility Checker, we're not just trying to make something pretty and something eye-catching. We're trying to surface data and expose it to you to get you to take action and to not give confusion to you or cognitive overload as well. Because like accessibility at first can be like, oh, I got 12 problems, or I got 16 needs review. I don't know what to do. So we're trying to surface this stuff, say, hey, you need to take action, but here's the most important thing to take action on, right? And not overloads. So I want to talk about the icons a little bit. So before we were kind of using these big washes of blocks of color to convey whether or not something was good or bad, right? Green or red, right? We've taken a step back and we've kind of changed how we're using color, how we're using shape, and how we're using icons to convey meaning. So we've removed those big, deep colors, and we've opted for icons to handle that. So before, so like accessibility status. So right now you can see I have 12 problems. If you look at the top accordion here, so at the top level, we're surfacing whether or not you need to open this accordion. If everything was passed, this would be a green box with a check in it. So we have, for something that needs attention, we have a circle. The is that information icon? Is that what it is? Or alert icon?
It's the exclamation mark.
Explanation. Thanks. So we have like a red circle with an explanation, and then if it's something that is a little less critical than that, we have a triangle with the explanation in it. So the explanation on both of those signifies that at some level they're the same, but the triangle and it being orange signifies that it's a little less, it's slightly less of a huge concern. And then we have a square checkbox that's green if something's good. So we're conveying meaning with color, icon, and shape, not just colors.
Yeah, the shape indicator here made an awful lot of difference for me. Actually, I didn't realize previously how if everything was a circle, then nothing was a notice bubble
Yeah.
as such. Now we do have the shapes, and so everything is signified by color and shape, and in some cases also the icon that's inside of the shape. But we're no longer just using color or just using an icon. It's always both.
Yeah. So yeah, we have Troy joining us, and
I try.
hey Troy, how's it going? Troy said you guys did one heck of a great job fitting a lot of important data into a small space. Very clean, fits into the overall look of Core as well. Yeah, thanks, Troy. And and I
It
do want
was
to.
not easy.
It was not easy, and we went through many rounds of reduction, and even from design, what we ended up with in design over to code, we still have pulled things out, and we have to keep asking ourselves, does removing this actually convey the less meaning, or does this actually cause the user to have a worse experience by removing it? If not, we should just remove it, move on. We can explain these things in documentation in other places, and it's hard. It's hard too for a mature plugin that's been around for 5 years. For somebody, and we use our plugin in our own remediations. And when you're used to where things are, what things are called, and when you start pulling things out, people on the team can start to be like, "Oh, well, where'd this go? Why isn't this here?" And
Yeah,
so,
but we are about to come up to something that I was very much against removing until I realized I didn't actually use it. I just liked it to be there.
yeah, I don't know what that is, but
I'll point it out when we get there.
okay. So to finish up on the status panel, I want to talk about the pass check icon a little bit. So the pass check icon, you'll notice before in the meta box, the pass check would be green. And it was almost always like, if it was 81%, it was green. If it was 10%, it was green. Almost always saying, good job, especially if those checks didn't apply, then you're getting green and a thumb, like a good job well done, a pat on the back for something you didn't do. And so with some of the ambiguity around what pass checks is trying to convey, we've changed the icon to an informational icon, and 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 that is to say, hey, this is informational. You should look at this and pay attention to it, but we're not going to make any kind of assumption on whether or not this is green good or red bad. So, well, it looks like our fearless CEO has joined the party. Welcome to the party, Amber. Glad to have you.
Yeah, I think the information icon is just also a signifier of this is supplementary. This does not really impact your decision,
Yeah.
but this is here when you need it. So you'll see that it is on the past checks, but you'll also notice that it is on dismissed issues as well.
Right.
And
Right.
we will explain when we get to dismiss issues why we think they're only informational.
Right. Cool. So a feature added to the accessibility status, previously the summary, is and oddly enough, this is something that's been requested from many people that have used the plugin, is in the summary, the old summary tab, they want to be able to click on it and get to the stuff. So we've added that functionality, something that seems very simple, but so what I'll do is I'll show you, like if you're looking at problems and you click on a problem, it automatically opens the accessibility analysis and goes to the problems tab and opens it up. So that brings us to the next tab, the accessibility analysis. In the meta box, this was called the details panel. And we're calling it analysis because we want to convey that, hey, these are the things that we've scanned that you need to take action on. And that's all that's in here, right? We're not mixing in remediation artifacts and things like that. So when looking at this panel, like at the top level, you can see that we have the explanation icon that's red, showing that there are issues in here that are problems. If there were no problems in the accessibility analysis and only needs reviewed, that icon would be the explanation triangle that is orange. So, and we are now at the top level. We are surfacing the number of total issues. So before you open a panel, you can kind of see. I can see, hey, there's some problems in here I need to review, and there's 28 total issues in here. Cool. So in problems, we now have these tabs, which William talked about a little bit. These are core components that we found to be fairly accessible, and we were very appreciative of that. You can see I have 12 problems and I have 16 needs reviews. So we've separated these out. Why did we separate them out, William?
Well, problems are something that you know you need to do something about, but needs review are things you need to review them. We are uncertain, and we will need a human eye to take a look. And they're two quite different workflows. Anything that is in problem needs a remediation effort, but anything in needs review needs to be looked at. And it might not have a remediation effort required. It might actually just be able to be dismissed.
Yeah.
It needs a human to look at it. But these are two separate workflows, and you don't really need the same information at the same time when you're tackling either.
Yeah. So this goes back to like the cognitive load, right? We're making two folders here. We're saying, hey, look at these first, but know that they're equal. They live on the same plane here, right? So we do have explanation icons for both problems and needs review that are slightly different, but at the same time, we're surfacing them kind of the same because we don't really know, because the needs review requires a human audit. And
some of the issues in needs review might actually be more problematic than problems.
Or
but
more
we don't know that yet.
Yeah, or more critical. Yeah, totally. So so now if we go down a level, we look at the rule, the individual rules. So we're still grouping issues into rules like we did in the old meta box. And we can see that I have ambiguous anchor text. I have 3 of those, and that it's critical. And we are now ordering these in criticality. So the most critical will be at the top and the least at the bottom. So again, putting these in the separate folders and then collating these folders to surface the items that need the greatest attention. And so I will go into the ambiguous anchor text accordion. So you'll see the issues now. So this was the next really difficult UI UX change that we made, and we evaluated a lot of other accessibility tools to see how they handle this, and a lot of them handle it in the same fashion. But previously in the old meta box, when you would open this up, you would actually see the code snippet, right? So you'd open it up, you'd see the affected code, and then you'd see a couple other action items to the right. And so we're in a sidebar that's, whatever, 245 pixels at most, right? And we have to show a huge code snippet.
The code snippet is the thing I was talking about earlier that I thought I was going to miss a lot.
Yeah.
And it turns out not so much. I only ever looked at it on the front end where I could find that markup snippet.
Yeah.
Can't find it here.
Well, and this is where like UI and UX get real complicated, because, William's experience on how he interacts with the plugin is different than Amber's experience with the plugin and how she interacts with it. And it's different than the way I interact with it. And it may be different for, like, if I looked in the old meta box and I pulled it open and I see this affected code and it's a big, huge block of code, I'm a developer. Amber's a power user slash developer. And she can kind of look at that code, and I can look at that code, and William can look at that code, and we can kind of, it's like the Matrix. When you see the letters going down the screen, you can see pictures. We can kind of tell what that is and where it is on the page. And, oh no. And yeah. So Amber says, yeah, I want the code snippet ASAP.
I thought I wanted the code snippet as well. I didn't. But
I
Amber
mean,
might.
this was hard for me. I think I fell in the middle of where you and Amber are, and I fell into I want it in the sidebar, but I know that from a UI perspective, it just can't happen. And
Well, I think we reached a fairly good compromise on where it could live.
yep. So when we go to these issues, so you'll see we have an issue number. So this is basically a database ID. Every issue gets a unique number. And then we do have,
Hopefully, most users have less numbers than this one, which is what,
yeah.
300,000?
Well, this is my local site copy, and I will say that this has probably been around for numerous years. And testing the accessibility checker here. So most people don't have 300,000 plus issues. So we have that, and it links, and we'll show you that in a minute. But then we have this ellipses menu to the right, which is our issue actions. If I click on that, this is where the actions live. I can view this on page, I can show the code, or I can dismiss the issue. So if I click view on page, and now I'm super zoomed in, so this may look a little funny, but actually it doesn't look that bad. So it does our normal, it highlights it on the front end, and you can get all the information on the front end you want. Like William said, he looks at this code box here on the front end to show the code. And we're trying to like make the plugin more non-developer friendly, so that this code snippet's here for power users, ones that really want to get into it, and maybe for future use, being able to modify this. But we're trying to make this a little more user friendly for non-technical people. So those are some of the actions you can take, and let's go ahead and open up the modal.
Well, I do want to call it, there's one additional action which you do not see because we don't have anything for ambiguous anchor text, but there is also a fix action that can appear on some of the issues if we have an automated fix for it. You're not going to see one here. You
link opens in
link open new window.
Yeah,
there is a fix for this, so
yeah, so there is an apply fix, and these are the same actions that you would get in the meta box.
correct.
So so let me jump back over to that problem. I'm going to click on the issue, and now we're presented with this new modal. And so in an effort to try to make the sidebar live on, the side and your content side by side, but we still want to be able to expose a lot of data to you about that issue, and we can't fit it all in the sidebar there. So we needed a place to put it. So we've introduced this new single issue modal, which is a modal that shows the issue ID at the top. We have a future plan to maybe allow this issue title to be edited. And then below we have our WCAG information that we introduced in the Pro plugin a few versions back. Amber went through and did an amazing amount of work on surfacing, WCAG criterion inside the plugin, and we show that on our open issues page. But that has not been available for free users until now. So we're now surfacing that here. I do have the Pro plugin installed and activated. So if the Pro plugin is installed and activated, you do get this toggle to show explanation. When you open that up, it tells you, why this issue matters, how to fix it, and then a link over to our documentation for much more detailed instructions on how to fix these issues.
Yeah, and if you're a free user, you have that link that takes you to the detailed documentation. You don't miss out on being able to access that information. For pro users, it's just readily available, and as such, we can show it here in this box for them.
Yep.
But all that information is available to everyone. You just have to visit the website to get the quick how to fix.
Yeah. So what we've done is we've surfaced this information that's already in the open issues to pro users right here in the same panel. And like William said, if you're a free user, this link actually just shows right here. So you have access to the same information. So before I keep going down the content here, I want to look at the sidebar here. So we have a sidebar where we show the type, which we know is a problem because we were just in the problems tab. And we show the severity, which is critical, and the landmark, which is main. And this is a link. So if I click main, this jumps over and highlights the landmark. This was added a few versions back in the plugin as well. And then we have our view on page link that was in that action menu as well. So we can view this on the front end if we would like. So back to the main content. William, you want to talk about?
Yeah, so here we have the affected code, which is what I really thought I would miss in the sidebar. It turns out I don't miss it as much. However, we also have Code Mirror available from WordPress, which allows us to do syntax highlighting. So in the previous old meta box, this would just be a code box or inside the code tag or pre-tag, and it would just be a grey background, black text. Now we have full syntax highlighting. So regardless of what type of markup this is, it should actually be easier to identify the important aspects of this for a developer. The syntax highlighting may not be very useful for a lot of our users, but for me, it's very nice.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Oh, so
we got a question.
Troy asked.
You want to read this one?
Yes. So, love the references to WCAG docs. Are you guys maintaining anything that helps generate the data in the popover, or is that all being pulled from an official endpoint somewhere? So it turns out there is not an official endpoint from WCAG, and this is self-maintained information. Some of it is mostly readily available from WCAG, but a few of the aspects of it, like how to fix and some of the references that are available for pro users, are maintained by us and mostly maintained by Amber. Thanks. Not by me.
Yeah. And, that's interesting you bring this up, Troy, that this was actually something that William and I were just talking about earlier today, because like I said, we are working on, expanding Accessibility Checker into different applications and services, and that information is actually not available in a public API, and we actually were discussing about building our own API to handle that. So great question. So cool. So that's something in the works. And the next one here, William?
Yeah, so the dismiss issue. Previously, you could ignore an issue. We no longer use the term ignore because we actually are not ignoring it's an issue. We're dismissing it after careful consideration, we hope. And previously, you could only comment and that was it. Now there is also some options here that you can flag your issue as the reason you've dismissed it. So you might think it's a false positive, which could happen, especially in needs review type issues. You've maybe remediated it and it will go away next time you scan, or you've confirmed it's accessible, because some needs review items, we just don't know whether they're problematic. For example, if we detect a slider is present, we will flag that as a needs review item, but you might actually have a fully accessible slider, which is quite uncommon. So definitely check, but you might have confirmed it's accessible, in which case you can flag it as such when you dismiss this issue.
Yeah, so a little bit to why we don't say ignore items anymore, because one, it was always a little awkward to say ignored items, or is it ignore items? Like it was always a kind of a weird thing to say. And we're trying to think a little bit about the meaning of the terminology that we're using. Like, what does ignore mean? Like, if it's an accessibility issue and it's been surfaced, why would we ignore it? Like, are we ignoring it for a period of time? Are we ignoring it forever? Are we ignoring it because we want our score to go up? Are we gaming the system by using the ignore system? And what we wanted to do was kind of bring a little bit more of clarity to why things are being quote unquote ignored. So we did land on the word dismiss. So you can dismiss it for for many reasons, but it's more actionable. It's I took this action to dismiss it. I'm not just ignoring. I'm ignoring it. Not my problem, right? And
Yeah, the term ignored is almost always used in a negative way, and
right,
we didn't necessarily want that. I will point out some of these reasons here. So this might be news to Steve because I haven't mentioned this yet, but I do think there will be a filter introduced over these reasons. So if users have very specific workflow in
yeah,
their local sites, they will be able to use a filter to potentially add additional reasons here.
yeah,
So these are the three that we surface for you now. But with a filter, you can probably add more of those in the not
yeah.
too distant future.
Yeah, I'll read those out too, just so anybody listening or that can't see this can have. So we have dismiss issue as, and we have radios for false positive, remediated, and confirmed accessible. So and that is a brand new feature added in to help with remediation. So we have our comment box. Um, this wasn't called comment before. Was it called something else?
Um, I have it up, so let me take a look. It was just called comment, but it
Okay.
didn't say it was optional.
Okay, yeah. Um, so we have the comment box. You can, go in here and type your comment, and it's kind of cool because it's a component and it expands as you type, right? Like it. So it's a lot more modern feeling. And we did add in the ability to do a little bit of code formatting. So with bold, italics, and then links, you can link text now.
Yeah, so personally, I don't see that I would ever have a use for this, but there was a case made that maybe instructions might be left here. So someone might be coming in and doing remediation work and dictating what might need to be done to tackle this issue. So instructions can be left here, for example, by someone, and some basic formatting might be nice for that.
Right.
And potentially a developer can come back later on and fix the problem, or maybe even the content author can cycle back and read that comment.
Yep. Cool. So then below that, you can see that we have a button called dismiss issue, and that will dismiss this. I'll just so everybody on the call can see, I'll go ahead and dismiss an issue. We get a notification that issue dismissed successfully, and then you can see the comment, and I must have a
You have a
space in
space.
there, and then the reason why and who it was dismissed by and the date. And these are things that we had before. And I will say that we are running. This is 38 accessibility checker version 1.38.0 beta 1, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a beta version of the plugin. These features have not released yet. They will come out shortly. The plugin is currently in user testing right now. But this is a piece that is still being worked on, and some design and CSS stuff is still being worked on this. So I can reopen the issue now that I've, maybe I accidentally hit the button. I can reopen it here. But when I go to close the modal, you'll see that the issue has been dismissed, and it now lives down in dismissed issues. You can see there's 4 now instead of 3, and we returned focus back to the current rule because that item actually removed, and we didn't think that would make sense to actually move focus back to the dismissed item because we want to keep you in your remediation. And so ideally your next thing would be to go back through that list and keep remediating. But that's not all. There's more to the dismiss issues. William, you want to talk about that?
Um, yes. So there's 2 additional options here in this dropdown. The first one is just a nice user-friendly feature. Dismiss and close modal, right? It saves you having to make one click. It'll dismiss as soon as it gets a successful result back from the API where the dismiss happens from. The modal will close, and that's just a nice UI ease of use type of thing, like a quality of life. The other one is dismiss globally. So previously, you would not be able to do a global dismiss from this page. And this is a pro feature because global ignores are a pro feature, or global dismiss as they will be in future. So if you're using the pro plugin, you can globally dismiss this right from the individual page. And that saves you having to go find this issue in the Open Issues tab or the Fast Track tab. You can just globally dismiss it right from here. And it has all the same things. Global dismisses don't necessarily have comments assigned. However, now you can add an individual comment here to the issue you're dismissing. It won't propagate to all the dismissed items globally, but it will on this local issue.
Yeah. Yep. So that's a new feature that we've brought. You can globally dismiss from the single issues page. Looks like we got another question from Daniel here. Sorry if I missed this earlier. Does the sidebar update errors and counts live as the user edits, or only upon saving? It's a great question. It does it live. So if I go here and I dismiss and close, it's going to close the modal, and you can see it just updated.
I do want to make sure that Daniel isn't asking if it updates as you're editing content here, because it currently does not update as you edit the content yet. It has to scan a rendered page, so a save does have to occur. But if you modify an issue by a dismiss, the numbers reflect immediately in the sidebar, or nearly immediately. Although we did skip a feature, so maybe we can cycle back to that. So if in the title bar here, beside Accessibility Checker, there is actually now a menu that you can click to scan the page from.
So that just did a scan, right?
It did, and obviously none of the content has changed, so nothing is being reflected as updated. But if you're editing content, you can actually come up here and click that scan button, and it will scan a preview of the content prior to needing to save.
Oh yeah, yeah. So Daniel did confirm that you were right, William. So this is a thing that we can do this, but part of the problem in doing that is that we don't know what your final save state is going to be. So the way Accessibility Checker works is like if it's polling, like, and there's a code term, polling. If it's like checking every 5 seconds to see if there's any content updated, or I think that the Block Editor even dispatches an edit, an edit
event that is it has a debounce attached, and it is every 5 seconds, I believe.
Yeah. And we could do that, and you could be making changes, and this stuff is actually being written to a database. We're not just scanning like a snapshot and storing it locally. This is all your issues get saved to a database because they could be managed at a global level. And so if we were doing that, you'd be writing to the database, and then what if you just closed off that page and didn't save it? You didn't do a final save, you just closed out, and you get that little notice that says, are you sure you want to there's unsaved changes, are you sure? And you hit fine, and you go off. We've actually written stuff to the database that's not the source of truth. So we can do that, but it's a little risky. But like William said, we do have what we call sidebar actions at the top, where you can rescan the page in real time, and you can actually refresh the content. Do you want to explain the refresh?
Yeah, so the refresh action it probably is a little bit of a niche use case. However, for example, if someone is a pro user, they might be ignoring issues from the fast track page, which won't immediately be reflected in the sidebar. So you might want to refresh the sidebar without resaving your content. Or also you could have maybe changed the theme of a website, in which case you can refresh to make sure that data gets repulled if things outside of the editor have changed. Right. You might want to refresh the data that is in the sidebar just to make sure that it is always up to date.
And this final?
Yeah, so this is does almost exactly the same as the clear issues button in the old Metabox does. It just deletes all the data for the issues on this post and lets it either be rescanned if needed, or, you know, I think there's limited use again for this clear issues button. We added this to solve a problem that no longer exists. It's a nice to have, I think.
Yeah, and we found that internally, our own auditors like to use this tool from time to time. I can hit clear issues just to show you. I hit clear. It says this will clear all issues for this post. A save will be required to trigger a fresh scan of the post. Do you want to continue? Yes, I do. So it's going to go through and it cleared out
Oh,
all of.
so
Oh,
that's interesting. So I need to update that message because you don't actually need to save anymore.
because we have the
You can use this
rescan.
rescan.
So without saving the post, I can now initiate a rescan, and now I have all my data back.
Correct. And you will notice that your numbers have changed because you had dismissed issues that are no longer dismissed. However, if you scroll down, if you had any globally dismissed issues,
They would show.
you didn't, but they would still be dismissed if they were globally dismissed.
Right, right. Cool. So that is the sidebar actions. And these are helpful to help manage your scan overall. Sometimes you don't want to, like, I know if I'm on a client's website and I go into their post and I know it needs a rescan, sometimes I'm nervous to hit the rescan because I don't know what services or plugins they have attached to a post that trigger when
Yeah,
a
you
post.
don't want to resave
Yeah,
their
like,
things.
is it going to send an email if I resave to like all their users? So it is kind of nice having something exclusive to the accessibility checker to manage that scan and rescan. So cool. So that's sidebar actions. We were down in the accessibility analysis panel going through some issues. I think in the modal, we need to show something with an image and possibly a fix, William. Let's,
Yes. So for the fix, we can show this.
yeah. So I've gone to the next tab. Like I said, we collated problems and needs review out. And if I click on needs review, you can see I have items that need to be manually reviewed by a human auditor to confirm that they are accessible or not accessible. And we have the severity flags here. You can see, and we've ordered the most severe at the top. So if I click on possible heading, oh, that's not what I wanted. I wanted something with an image. Let's see. Okay. So just like before, we would try to pull an image out of the code snippet to kind of give you more of an indicator of where this is or what image it is. And so we're doing that the same here. You can see this is the image. And of course, if this doesn't need alt text, you can go ahead and dismiss it.
I do want to point out here. So while this is feature parity, it's the same almost. You can see the image. There has been a slight enhancement here. So if you have an issue that might have multiple images in it, for example, again, the slider is present, might have 6 or 7 images, one for each slide. All of those images will actually be available to see in this panel here, as opposed to just the first image, which is what the old Metabox would use.
Right. So I'll just dismiss that because I'm saying it's decorative. It's not, but I just said it was for demonstration purposes only. So that's the accessibility panel. So you can go through and you can see all of your rules and all the issues and go in and remediate them and get those all accessible. And your need to review items follows the same pattern. So we've talked about dismissed issues. So like I said, we're uncollating dismissed issues from the analysis because this is something that an auditor or a user has taken action on, and we want to kind of filter that away. But at the same time, we want them to still be able to come in and see what has dismissed and maybe review why it was dismissed. And for that, so since we have the dismissed as reason now, when you pull up this is the same rule, the same pattern, UI pattern for dismissed issues as the accessibility analysis.
It's the very same component.
But the dismissed as reason is actually flagged on the issue here. So you can come here and you can see why it was dismissed at just a glance, without having to open the modal and go down here and read why. But I will show, like, you don't have to take all those clicks. You can use the action item to reopen the issue and brings your focus down to the current place and reopens it. So, and then you can actually review what's here and dismiss it again if you like.
Yeah, and as far as screen readers go, these notices that are appeared when you dismiss or reopen an issue, they get announced to screen readers as soon as they appear. So issue reopened successfully will be announced to the screen reader user if they use that action and end up on this page. So they don't lose context even though we're moving them around. They still get told what just has occurred.
Yep. So that will go away. Did we look at fixes? Let's see.
We did not look at
fixes. Sorry for we're jumping around a little bit, but let me find one that has a fix. It's probably link opens in a new window.
That's the easiest one to showcase.
So I could either just open the modal and go to it, or I can actually hit the issue action items and hit apply fix. And that'll open the modal and we'll focus on the fix issue. I'm zoomed in quite a bit, so let me zoom out a little bit.
Yeah, so this is an interesting issue to showcase fixes because this has two potential fixes in our plugin. We can either prevent it from opening a new window by removing the target equals blank, or we can add a warning, the same as what our new window warning plugin does. It will add an icon and a label that says for screen reader users that it opens in a new window. So there's two options here. Most issues with a fix have only one option, but this one has two.
Yeah. So if I choose prevent links from opening in a new window, so I have 5 of these should all go away, right?
Fingers crossed. You save this.
So I save this, I get a save notification. Once I close the modal, it's going to rescan, and they're all gone.
Correct.
Beautiful.
Instantly fixed, unchecked, verified.
Instantly. The way accessibility works is you apply the fix, it rescans the page, and all your issues go away. So we're not just applying a fix and hoping for the best. Because what if our fix actually doesn't work in some circumstance? We're fixing it, rescanning it, and if it still is an issue, it will resurface back in the plugin.
Actually, if someone does encounter an issue where they apply a fix and the issue doesn't go away, I would love to hear about it so that I could make sure that that exact markup in that case is added to our automated test suite, which will make sure we actually fix it and keep it fixed with our automated fixes. That was a lot of times to say fix.
Yeah. So that's kind of how the fixes work. They worked that way before, but I think it kind of, you can see it in action a little bit here real quick. We fixed and remediated 5 issues just with a click of a button. So if you're not using the fixes in the plugin, take a look at them. There's a lot you can do. I mean, I'll pull them up here since we're talking about it. I'm zoomed in a lot. So you can see we got a lot of fixes in here for fixing things like, removing tab index and title attributes, forcing other underlines, the viewport changes, like we just went through. So you can see that we toggled block links from opening in a new window, and you can see that that's toggled here because this is what we just did on that single post. Now those are at a global level. It does fix it for the whole website. So if you are running pro, you might want to run a full site scan after enabling these. Block PDF uploads. So we have some of these are pro fixes that are available only in our pro plugin. I'd have to disable Pro. I'd have to disable Pro to tell you which ones. Let's see. Deactivate Accessibility Checker Pro. So you can see in the free plugin which ones are Pro only. So block PDF uploads, add file size and type to links, add missing page titles. And we did have a previous change log all about our fixes. So you can go back to to the episode, which I'm not sure we'll have that linked in the show notes and the post that goes out about this change log. So let me jump back over to my post again. Back to my sidebar. So I think that's everything. So let's go to the final tab here and take a look at readability analysis. So,
well, I actually do want to point out that now you have a different icon here
in readability analysis. So this was part
it
of
previously was green.
Yeah. So explain why we changed this.
Yeah. So, well, first off, I'm going to comment on the fact that this was green earlier and is now the triangular warning issue rather than the green square, because when you deleted all the data about the post, the summary also was removed. So now this is a 12th grade reading level. So it's got the warning sign because this needs a summary, and there is no summary. If you add a summary here that is under a 9th grade reading level, the icon will change.
Yeah, I was more specifically talking about why we're using the orange triangle, which was warning before, rather than the error, the red circle. So I'll answer my own question, but the readability, the reading level is not necessarily a WCAG AA requirement. I think it is at triple level, and but we don't currently have a way in the plugin to define the WCAG level that you want to comply with. If you did have a AAA requirement defined in the plugin or the ability to do that, we would make this red to show that it is something of attention. But we changed it to the orange triangle explanation to kind of say, hey, this is something you need to take notice of. It's not necessarily like it's a violation, but you need to be aware of it, and you should pay some attention to this. And we've just done this in an effort to try to convey meaning a lot better with our icons and our text. So we can demo this, and this is how the plugin has worked for a long time. I thought I had some text somewhere.
You can probably just grab the first sentence or the first two sentences here to indicate it. It doesn't look like it's a lot of long. There's a couple of long words, but
yeah, it's still 12th grade.
if you just delete some of the longer words, the sentences will no longer make sense, but you'll get different.
I'm asking AI for some text below a certain grade level. Okay, so
yeah, but while you're pulling that up, this is a AAA level success criteria 3.1.5. Yeah, comprehension.
Yeah. Cool. So I added in text that was below a 9th grade reading level as a simplified summary. You can see I have this 12th grade reading level text here, which is actually Alice in Wonderland. And now you can see that we've evaluated your simplified summary, and it's below the 9th grade reading level, and you get the green checkbox. And the 12th grade reading level of the post now uses the gray or black information icon. We don't turn this to a green check, because your initial post is still above the recommended reading level, but the simplified summary actually does bring it into compliance with the AAA requirement. And you'll see if you pull open the accessibility status panel, you can see under that reading level stat that you now have the green checkbox and that it says summary provided. So if I remove that summary and rescan, and you don't have to save the post for this to scan, you can see in the summary, the accessibility status, that the reading level has the warning or the orange triangle explanation icon, and it says summary required. So just doing what we can to surface where the reading level is in the stats and give you all the tools you need to add a simplified summary to supplement your post that has a higher reading grade level. And that works pretty much like the old meta box. And speaking of the old meta box, I know we're running long here, but
Yeah, so if you want to swap to my screen, actually, I have both the old one and the new one up with the same data in it and 2 different windows, so we can do a comparison. If you want to go quick. Oh, but actually, maybe I shared only a window and I don't have both up.
Well, you can show yours here.
So
if we
cycle back. So,
and I have the other one open. So this was the old meta box that everybody's very familiar with using. And so in changing the sidebar, it kind of brought up the conversation. Well, we've made a lot of terminology changes, a lot of layout changes, a lot of the way things are displayed changes. How do we have to keep parity between the two? Like, is the meta box legacy at this point? And it really isn't legacy, because the sidebar is only going to work on a block on a Gutenberg block editor compatible website. If they're running classic editor, or even if your custom post type is only classic editor, you still need a way to manage the accessibility checker. So let's take a look at.
So for me, one of the big differences here is, first off, these giant blocks of color, this is color for information without any other real notifier. So red is bad, green is good, yellow or orange is in the middle, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so these are huge blocks of color with very little data attached. They're just numbers, and we have a lot of space here in comparison to the amount of space that's in the sidebar. But these look different, and they also use different terms, as you'll see in a second. But this is the classic mailbox that everyone is used to seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And this blue icon and all the other ones being white annoys me. The blue icon on the warnings panel.
Yeah,
white icon doesn't pass
color contrast. Yeah. So Troy has another question here. He says that has there been any consideration given to adding any of this to templates? Say if I were to show templates while editing content, but my template had an error. I'm going to make an assumption that you're talking about full site editing templates. Is that correct, Troy? There has been some consideration given to the full site editing and how we can implement the accessibility checker on like template parts. Yes, that's exactly. Yeah. So we have internally talked about this. I think there actually is an issue open in our GitHub in regard to this, on how in the full site editor, when you're modifying a template part or like a header or footer, how we can run accessibility checker just on that template part. And last year we introduced scanning of custom post types and taxonomies. So we now have a mechanism to store data in what we call a virtual custom post type, and we have virtual custom post type. There's like a taxonomy that goes along with. This is a virtual custom post type taxonomy. These are taxonomies and custom post types used inside of Accessibility Checker to give the same feel to things that aren't actual posts. And I think we can extend that to full site editing parts, right, William?
Yes. So it's not trivial, but is absolutely feasible that we will be able to use the features we introduced for archive scans and taxonomy scans to be able to be applied to template parts as well. I did initially do some pre-scoping of that, but it wasn't feasible for initial release. But it absolutely is possible to scan template parts individually, and potentially propagate those exact results from the template parts through to pages which contain those templates.
Yeah, it's a great question, Troy. Thanks. So we have another one from Daniel. You want to read this one, William?
Yeah, so Daniel asked, what will this update do to previously ignored items? Will there be a way for us to go through and mark them as one of the three? So the only way you can do that is to undismiss the item and then redismiss it with an item on it. There is no backporting of the labels currently. I'm going to take note of that because maybe we do want to add a migration that allows people to customize that if they can write a filter. But yeah, currently you would have to unignore and then redismiss the issue to get one of the reasons applied.
Yeah. So since you brought it up, Troy, I think we can, or sorry, Daniel, I think we can show that. So you do have a mechanism. So like if I have a dismissed issue here, and we're jumping into the new modified meta box here a little bit, but some things are the same. But you can see here that dismissed issue has a false positive. You can reopen it. Like your issue will show. It just these won't be selected, right, William?
Correct. These will be empty by default, and it will be disabled while it is dismissed. But as soon as you reopen it, you'll be able to edit
You can
these
then
items.
choose it, but you do have to do it on a per basis because this is a new feature, so it's like a moving forward feature.
Yeah,
There's
I,
not
I actually do think I will provide a WP CLI command for backporting these. I'm gonna probably build that today.
cool. That'd be awesome. We'll make a card in Linear for you in GitHub for you, and you can track the progress of that. So cool. So that jumps us into and Troy does have an AI question here, and William and I are big AI geeks, but we're a
Yes.
little bit we're a little bit realistic about AI too. We use it a lot, and we're actually trying to lean on it as much as we can to make our small team operate as quickly and bigger than the size we actually are. But we can talk about this. We can sidebar on this and jump into the meta box. But Troy said, nice. I was curious, as I expected with AI building more themes, we will see more A11Y issues and templates. So this is a really interesting question because you could go both ways with it. Like you could say, arguably, the accessibility might be better.
In some cases, I have found actually that especially when we were transitioning our PHP roles to JavaScript roles, so we could scan everything on the front end. We have some AI code review tools, CodeRabbit specifically, that was incredibly insightful about missteps with accessibility messes that the old PHP rules might have not accounted for all edge cases. And if your code base or the prompts ask for accessible content, I actually think the AI is better than average at producing accessible output. It is
Yeah.
surprisingly good sometimes at recognizing labels or missing labels, and also keyboard handlers. If you add a link that's not a button, CodeRabbit did shout at me one time that I didn't add a spacebar handler. I mean, it was correct. I missed it. And I
Yeah.
actually think the AI can sometimes do good
Yeah.
reviews of code that has, I don't want to say bad code, but code that people forgot a thing.
Yeah.
I often forget. The AI can sometimes catch you, but it can go the opposite way. If you're moving incredibly quickly, you just want it finished, the AI might just drop you a chunk of markup, and it could be horribly inaccessible.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the whole breakdown on the methodology around the application of AI and what we do, right? Sure, there's the crowd that's going to try to capitalize off of it just because it can do stuff fast and they don't even have to think about it or review it. And I think the way that like we use it is we're trying to use it to make the software better. There is a lot of conversation internally in our company whether or not the AI is making us faster, but we can say that it is making us better. It is making the software better. It is catching bugs. It is catching accessibility issues before it goes out. So it's just better tooling to help us make better software. We're not necessarily trying to just churn out slop to so we can release something. Which that may be the crowd that gets in a little bit of trouble with the accessibility there. But I will say, like, if those template parts that are being made in a full site in the full site editor, if those template parts are used on the front end of the website, they're going to be scanned by Accessibility Checker and they're going to be exposed on the page in which they live. If your homepage gets scanned, it's going to surface as a global issue, right? And so we're still catching those, but it would be a great enhancement for the Accessibility Checker to actually expose those issues in the back end while you're editing those template parts, because those template parts you can be adding links and you can be adding images, and if you're not adding alt text or you're making ambiguous text inside your links, we could expose it there. So I think that's a great idea.
We do have one more question. I guess we're very much past time, so we need to wrap up soon. But we do have another question from Daniel. He asked, for pages not in the block editor, will the old meta boxes remain available as is for now? And the answer to that loosely is yes. However, they also have had almost all of the enhancements we created for the sidebar backported, and they've had a visual refresh as well. But the classic meta box is not going away, probably ever. People who use classic editor or any non-block based editor will always need that classic meta box. So
Yeah.
it will be
So
there.
since we're running short on time, let's kind of do a lightning round on the meta box and what we've done to kind of bring it in parity with the sidebar. So the meta box, we've tried to keep it familiar, but update the UI and the design to kind of match the sidebar. So there are some things that we kind of left that we removed in the sidebar as far as like contrast problems. And these are things that we may modify in future releases to make these even more in parity with each other. But we didn't want to make the meta box such a huge change that it was alarming. Now, not having the colors in here the way they were is kind of alarming. This is a much more simplified, kind of blank, white, clean look. But we wanted to bring in the same iconography that we used in the sidebar to convey the same meaning here. So this is what was previously the summary panel, which is now the accessibility status panel. Like we said, we talked a lot about the past checks, which used to be called past tests, and this progress bar. We have left the progress bar for now to kind of keep that familiarity, but we've changed the color to more of a neutral blue, so we're not making a big assumption on green good, red bad, right? I don't know if there's anything else on here that major that we've changed. Anything you want to comment on, William?
Just the terminology changes on the right hand side. It is problems and needs review and dismissed now. They're not issues warnings ignored.
Yeah.
So we did update that. And as you said, the iconography.
Yeah.
Circles with exclamation marks, squares with checks, triangles.
Yep.
It's in sync.
Cool. So on the accessibility analysis panel, which was previously the details panel, the updates that have been made here, let me collapse this down. So the updates that have been made here, again, is pulling in the iconography. We used to have the count in a little bubble that was a color over here. So we've brought in the iconography with the same coloring, and we've moved the count to the back of the rule. So to bring it exactly in line with the way that the sidebar displays the count of issues. We've added in the severity, and we've updated the ordering to order by severity in this panel. So we have a new flag here. This was, like I said, something that was introduced in the Pro plugin last year, and we are now surfacing severity throughout the plugin. And I think that's all the updates there. If I open up an issue, when we just talked about this, you want to just summarize this?
So we brought the dismiss reason over to this. The individual dismisses and a single issue for each of the mailboxes. You can now use the dismiss reasons. This was a new feature specifically for the sidebar, but we backported it here. So you don't lose this feature if you do not use the new sidebar. You still have access to this.
Yep. Cool. So that is some of the changes to the accessibility analysis panel. And then finally, the readability analysis panel, which was previously just readability. We've updated this with the same iconography from the sidebar, just so, again, these match up and there's no confusion going back and forth. We've removed colors. The grade level used to switch between red and green based on if it's passing or not, and we have removed that, and we're allowing the iconography to drive the urgency of that. But other than that, I think just some terminology updates and some button up label updates is about all we've changed there. So that is a quick overview of the new accessibility checker sidebar and our first iteration on new UI enhancements. Do we have any other questions before we go, William? Let's see.
I don't see any new questions come in. Although I appreciate everyone asking questions and being around today.
Yeah, makes it more conversational. See, Troy said, I've had some success in guiding AI design to fix, but there's part of me that knows that some folks won't think to do that. Yes. AI is a great tool, and if you have the knowledge already, like of accessibility or software engineering, the AI becomes a superpower. And but again, in the wrong hands, it can kind of create what we call slop. So it's a great observation. You got anything to add to that, William?
No, I think that is absolutely on the head. If you don't know what to ask the AI, then you're not going to know what to evaluate when it gives you it back. So it's the same. I guess we are somewhat biased in that sense that we ask things differently to what an average person might. Yeah, and that could be the reason why we get okay results for accessibility from the AI.
Yeah. Amber says, I agree. You get better output if you know how to prompt it. It's totally true. And like, even in the discussion that William and I were having a couple weeks ago or whatever, I was making some quick comment about AI, why can't you get it to do this? And like, it does it great for me, right? Like, or not him, but like just an observation on people's using AI. And then William's like, I don't think you know this, but you prompt a lot different than probably a lot of other people. So
yes.
So there's probably a little bit of I'm going to coin a term, William. I'm going to copyright it after this, but I'm going to copyright it after this. I got to make an X post about this because I'll get all kinds of, but prompt bias, right? Like,
I think that's very, very much real. I write prompts in a very specific way that encourages it to be quite verbose, sometimes with comments. And I've seen people produce a lot of AI code that contains zero comments at all. I think everyone does have a bit of a bias towards what they like to write their code like, and that extends into how they ask the AI to produce the code as well.
right. Well, and you ask questions like you you ask questions to answers that you already know because you want to see what it does.
Yeah, well, it's always good to get alternative perspectives, right?
Right.
That's sometimes the AI can be the other pair of eyes.
Right. So cool. Well, one of these days we'll have to do just a big WordPress AI accessibility live stream and go real deep on this AI stuff and how we're using it and how it can help with accessibility and just development in general, and remediating your website. Like we do a lot of remediations at Equalize Digital, and our remediations are definitely going a lot quicker with the use of AI. And when we're fixing things in like page builders and stuff like that, the AI can really assist us in that. And then we don't necessarily get a a boost or a huge win internally for us, but the client does. We can go further on the website with the client's allotted budget. So
Yeah, there's quite a lot of we talked earlier on about tabs and how tabs need to be arrow key usable, and that's actually a misstep that most people who build tabs forget. Um, you know, you should use arrow keys to navigate through a set of tabs, and the amount of code that's required to do that is actually quite a lot.
mhm.
And there's no out of the box package to do that. But you can quite easily ask the AI and explain the requirements, and the AI can look at the code on the page and work out the exact selectors that need to be applied to the right items. And you're still telling it what needs done, but it can type faster than you can. And that's where the speed acceleration comes from.
Yeah, cool. Well, I think that wraps this episode. This one was a long one, but I'm so appreciative of you all joining us and listening in and adding conversation and questions, and look for these new features to come out in the next release of Accessibility Checker that will hopefully be out in the next week or so. And we look forward to seeing you on the next live stream.
Thanks, everyone. See you later.
See ya.